a standing committee, and welcome to the November meeting of the standing committee. I call us to order. I will note that I have approved the remote participation of Mr. Andy Rotherham and Mr. Bill Hansen under the board's bylaws under section 2.23708 3B3 of the Code of Virginia. Such participation is allowed because their principal residence is more than 60 miles from the meeting location identified in the notice. Mr. Chapman, would you call the roll for the standing committee members?
Thank you, Ms. Wadiska. Mr. Bailey? Here. Ms. Wadiska?
Present.
Dr. Moran?
Present.
Mr. Hansen?
Here.
And Mr. Rotherham?
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. We will begin with a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, members of the standing committee, you were provided an agenda in advance of this meeting. I would like to note that I will request a motion to add another meeting for December 1st at the top of the action items and discussion items. Is there a motion to approve the amended agenda as presented to the standing committee?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of approving the amended agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, and the agenda is approved. At this time, we'll move to approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the October minutes as presented to the standing committee? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the October minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, and the minutes are approved. At this time, we'll move to public comment on agenda items. The standing committee accepts public comment on all matters related to the College Partnership Laboratory Schools in Virginia. Public comment is an incredibly important part and a valued input for the standing committee's consideration. At this time, Mr. Chapman, I don't believe we have any members of the public that are here to address the committee, but I did want to double check with you. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Moving on to action items, discussion items. The first item of business is noted when we adopted the agenda. The State Board of Education has added a meeting in December, and therefore I'm proposing that the lab committee will also add a corresponding date to consider any lab school applications. This would allow for the continued advisement to the State Board of Education. This would also serve as our official last meeting of the year. So therefore, is there a motion to approve adding December 1st as an additional meeting for the lab committee?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the adding the December 1st meeting, please signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes aye as well, and the motion is approved. And at this time, with all of those business items dispensed with, it is really my pleasure to move to item A on our agenda, which is a presentation from Dr. Jill Serrata with the Fanny Edel Falk Laboratory School. Good morning and welcome, and thank you for being here with us this morning.
Thank you. I feel honored to be able to speak to this group about my experiences and hopefully be able to answer any questions that you have with regard to how we're structured and set up here so that it might be helpful as you think through this process. I do have a presentation prepared that I can go through, but at any time, I really want to be responsive to the needs of this group. So if at any time you have questions or something that you need me to spend more time on or focus on, please feel free to interrupt and we can just kind of let it flow from there. So does that sound good to everyone?
That's excellent, Dr. Serrata. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Let me go to the presentation. And I'm not as familiar with Teams as I am with Zoom. So, okay, I think we're all seeing the painting of the school, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so my name is Jill Serrata, and I am in my 29th year here at the Falk Laboratory School, and I've been here, actually started here as a student intern in the early 90s, was hired as a teacher and taught in kindergarten for many years, and then moved into administration, and I've served as director of admissions, and now I'm in my third year as director of the laboratory school. So I know the school really, really well, understand its function, understand its purpose, and see it from many perspectives. And so I'm happy to share a little bit more about the laboratory school with you. And I'll try to be quick so we have time for discussion. So the aim really, after talking with Andy a week or so ago, the aim for this presentation is really to cover sort of the history and structure of Falk Lab School briefly, just to give you a sense of what the school is all about, but then really dive into the organization of the resources that we have. So how do we think about people, time, space, and money, and organize those things in favor of the school? So this is a bit picture from of our school. We started in the 1930s by the Falk family as a very small school. It was the more triangular shaped building on the right side of the image that you see. And then in 2009, we opened everything from the glass structure in the middle to the left side that shows like 3 floors of classrooms. So we've expanded over time. We currently have 430 students in grades kindergarten through 8. We are a tuition-based school, so parents do pay us tuition as they would for other independent schools in the city of Pittsburgh. But we're on the campus of the University of Pittsburgh, and you can see the tall structure in the far background on the right is actually the Cathedral of Learning, which is an iconic building for the University of Pittsburgh. So we're right on the campus, and when the Falk family established us in the 30s, 3 of the words that they used in our charter agreement that I'll show you next are the words progressive, experimental, and demonstration. And so those really set forward our mission and our purpose for existence and why we're part of the University of Pittsburgh. So the school was born with a charter agreement. And this is not true for all laboratory schools, but it was true for us. So we were started in the 30s. And you'll see here in the second paragraph where it talks about the Falk family wanting students of the university to follow a teaching vocation, to have a chance to observe methods of teaching in an elementary school that was controlled by the university. And that the University of Pittsburgh wanted to establish and maintain a progressive, experimental, and demonstration elementary school. So those words in our original charter really set forth what we are and what we do. Now, I didn't say that I've also, I think this group spoke with Nicholas Ramos not too long ago, the executive director of the International Lab School Association. And I work with him regularly, and I've served as president of that association 3 times. And work closely with lab schools all around the world. And so if you look at the International Association of Laboratory Schools website, you'll see the functions of a laboratory school spelled out. And those are these 5 things that are in the middle of this Venn diagram: educational experimentation, curriculum development, research, teacher training, and professional development. Falk in our charter had the words experimental, progressive, and demonstration. And so what I've done here is kind of shown how those 3 words from our charter align with all of the things that are stated as the purpose of lab schools from the International Association. Educational experimentation and curriculum development really kind of live in the experimental and progressive circles. Research is at the heart of everything that we do, all 3 areas: the demonstration side, the experimental, and the progressive part of Falk. And then teacher training and professional development really kind of live down more towards demonstration in what we do. So those 3 words just so crucially align with the purpose of us as a lab school, similar to the way John Dewey established his lab school at the University of Chicago in the late 1800s. One of the questions I get asked regularly is, what makes us unique? How are we different from other independent schools in the city of Pittsburgh? And the thing that makes us unique is that lab school function. The lab school components that I just spoke to you about really invite us to be innovative, reflective, and study the things that are happening here in the school. And that informs the way that we address the whole child. We do it in a progressive way, which means we're using authentic and meaningful learning experiences. And as we continue to address the whole child, that informs what the research is and the innovations that we have. And so one just kind of feeds into another. And we're always learning from the research and the experimentation and innovation to continue to develop our ability to address the whole child. And it just becomes cyclical. And so that's really what sets us up. Whereas other schools might focus on the child, they don't have that piece of demonstration, reflection, innovation, and study that we have here at Falk. And so that makes us different. Some of the ways that you'll see research and innovation play out in regards to the ways that we're structured here, or the way we live our daily experiences, is that we have a program called the Teacher Research Fellows, and that invites teachers to actually be scholarly practitioners and question their practice and learn from one another. But then we also experiment with innovative curricula. So we've implemented some new classes and programs here at Falk, including a yoga and mindfulness class for the students, and a class we call Wonder Lab for the students, that really are the result of that constant study and that search for what are we doing, what could we be doing, and how do we want to engage with kids. So this is hard to see, but I'm going to explain it as quickly as possible. Research at Falk consists of 4 different tiers. The top tier is research that is done by Falk faculty. Okay, the second tier is research that is done by Falk faculty in collaboration with an external researcher, whether that's someone from the University of Pittsburgh or someone outside of the University of Pittsburgh, but it's in collaboration with someone else. Tier 3 is someone external to our school wants to come in and be in our school doing research, in the classrooms, observing teachers, working with kids, doing something in the building. But it's not in collaboration with us, and it's not authored by us. And then the 4th tier is research that we share with our families that they might want to participate in, that happens outside of our school on their own time. And an example of that might be like the audiology department once wanted to do some hearing studies of children over time, and they invited children to go to their labs if they wanted, what they were interested. So it wasn't in collaboration with us. We had nothing to do except for share that information with our families. So those are the 4 tiers. For many years, we were really good at welcoming tier 2, 3, and 4. Where we lacked the resources was tier 1, that research done by Falk faculty, because they really needed supports in place to make that happen. And so I'm going to dive into those supports as I get into the explaining a little bit more about who the people are here at Falk. And then you'll see how we built up that tier 1 capacity in our school, and we're getting better and better at doing that authored research ourselves. So the adults in the building, here's a general organizational structure that kind of delineates the duties. Since we've grown from about 200 students to 430, we've had to grow our administration and to support all of that. We now have myself here as director. I report directly to the Dean of the School of Education. And then she reports to the Board of Trustees at the university. So that's the sort of the authority of the school. I oversee a leadership team of right now 5 people, but that may change in the future. I currently have a division director for K-5, so someone who oversees the program of the elementary. In other words, any family concerns for elementary age children, the curriculum development, and the teacher growth and evaluation is all part of this person's job for K-5. I have another division director for middle school who does the same kind of thing as the elementary person, but oversees the 3 middle school grades. Then we have a coordinator of, and this is JEDI, because that's what she calls herself, but it's Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And she's also the Director of Student Services K-5, and that's something that I'm looking at changing. So that's still in flux right there. I have a Director of Administrative Operations who oversees all of the staff of the building. So our accountant, our technology coordinator, our school nurse, communications coordinator, information systems manager, and then the secretaries and the front desk people that we have and student workers that come into the building. And then I have a Director of Admissions who oversees an admissions coordinator. And so that's how we are organized. There's also on the side here a manager of constituent relations, which is really sort of our development person, the person who works with our alum, raises funds for us, is starting to grow our endowments and our capacity that way with our gifts. But she also reports to the School of Education's Director of Development. So she's kind of off to the side because she has two bosses. So recruiting and investing, super important. When we recruit and go through a hiring process, we really need to ensure that we're welcoming someone who is willing to be engaged in that lab school environment, because it's more than just teaching children. It's also about investigating your own practice, being collaborative, and open to learning. So there's a certain kind of person that we need to recruit, and we try to get into that through the hiring process and the questions that we ask. And then there's also the importance of investing in our faculty. I'm going to stop before I go into the research. Are there any questions right now that I might be able to address? I feel like I'm going through this very quickly. I'm going to be.
Any questions from the committee members at this point? No, this is excellent. Please continue.
Okay, okay, I will continue. So if you remember a few minutes ago, I said that we weren't really good at that tier one, that research done by Falk faculty. That was something that was kind of a side note, because we were, demonstrating our teaching practices to student teachers. Every teacher here serves as a mentor to a student teacher. So there's a lot of student teachers in our building. Some of our teachers also teach classes for the university. We welcome observers. So that connection for future teachers was strong, really strong. And we were teaching kids, and that seemed like a lot. But what wasn't happening is we weren't thinking about the things that were really important to us or sticky for us. In other words, there might be a moment that a teacher has a question in mind, but never has a chance to explore that question. And so what we did was develop this research funnel for Falk faculty. The first level at the top of the funnel is inquiries of school culture. We started to make some changes in our building where instead of setting professional goals, we asked teachers to ask questions. So what is something that they want to dive deep into about their professional practice, and ask a question that they might explore. Some of the questions this year that are really fantastic, there's many really fantastic questions, but one of them is from a middle school history teacher. How do I teach history in a way that invites students to understand the emotional side of it, to be empathetic to the events in history when they're bombarded by so many events today that they have to be numb to? So his question is, how is he teaching about the Holocaust, or how is he teaching about wars or civil rights movements, and getting kids to connect to the seriousness and the pain of that time when there's so much around them right now. And so he's diving into that professional question. And then there are many others that I can go back to. We'll make sure we have time for discussion later, so I don't want to dive into too many, but there's some questions there. So inquiries of school culture, it's something that we are living into. How do we solve problems together? What questions do we ask to make improvements in our school? That's something that we're diving into for everyone. When you have those folks, everyone asking questions about their practice, some of them start to fall through this funnel just naturally, organically, without being pushed. The history teacher is like, he's got this great question, but now he wants to go further. So he wants to look at some other methods of teaching and working with students in that way, either through other professionals or organizations, or talking to the history museum, just diving deeper into it. And so he's falling into that level 2, that deeper inquiry of wanting to go further than just sort of the professional growth that everyone is doing. When people start to fall through the funnel, they can't help but go a little bit lower into level 3 and want to be a research fellow. I'll explain what our research fellows do and what they get as supports in the next few slides. And then finally, after becoming a research fellow, it's a natural next step to present, to publish, and to give back in some kind of way. So that's really the funnel that we've designed that is starting to set us up into really exploring that tier one of research. And so I just went through these in the previous slide, so I'm going to skip over that. If someone falls through the funnel and gets to that level 3 where they want to be a research fellow, we ask them to come to a once-a-month meeting for all of our research fellows where we talk about research methodology. We help them with IRB processes. We talk about their questions and where they can go with their questions. And it serves as a professional learning community for this group. And then we provide those folks with coverage 1 day a month so that instead of teaching, they can spend time diving into their research questions. They might use that to do a lit review. They might use that to go to another school and observe other teachers. They might use that just to sit back at our school and observe other grade levels or their own class and collect data. They might already have surveys that they sent out and they need help processing that data and learning from that data. And so they'll spend the day doing that. I do have, and then they can also choose to attend a conference related to their research topic. One of the things that makes this doable for myself as an administrator is that I work with the School of Education to buy out 2 course releases for one of their professors. And so rather than paying a salary for a research coordinator who is spending their time helping people with this data and these questions, I am paying about $8,000 a semester to the School of Education to get a course release for one of the professors who comes to Falk 2 days a week and is here as a member of the faculty in people's classrooms, talking to teachers about their questions, helping gather the data that they need to get. And so it's a rather inexpensive way for us to provide that one-on-one support. This person knows the IRB process, knows how to publish works, knows APA. Like, I couldn't do this work of asking teachers to dive into research if I didn't have that one-on-one support person. And so that research coordinator role is vital for something like this. And it isn't something that I can support a full salary for. So this partnership with the School of Ed has really enabled us to do that. That's investing in people. That's honoring their expertise, their knowledge, and gives them a chance to give back to the field of education, which is one of the reasons they want to teach at a lab school. They want to help future teachers and they want to contribute to the educational community. And so these are the supports that we have in place to invest in our people. Something else we do to invest in our people is that we have a promotional structure for teachers. Usually educators or teachers have a step salary system, or it's pretty flat. They're just getting the yearly increases or general increases year to year, not based on any new expectations or any new asks of them as individuals. And so we have this level system where if you want to jump to a new band or a new level, you can apply to do so. Let me dive into that a little bit further. So level A would be for any educator that is just a recent graduate out of a School of Education. They're new to the profession and they want to learn, and they are learning to be teachers. These are people that are between 0 and 5 years of total teaching experience. And this is sort of an up and out. Either you advance to the next level or you leave Falk. You don't stay at this level forever, but it's the only band that is an up and out. Every other level that we present, teachers can stay there as long as they like, but there's an incentive to move to the next level because there's a salary jump that they would receive going from one level to the next. So level B is you're learning to be a teacher because you're always learning, but then you're also committing to the profession. This can be someone who's had at least 3 years of experience, and it comes with a new set of requirements for a teacher. So at this level, level B, they need to engage meaningfully in the faculty growth and renewal cycle, of course, and they need to start mentoring student teachers. Of course, they need to, then they need to join a faculty committee as well. And some of the other things that are involved include going through an induction plan and things like that you would have done at level A. So they'll join a faculty committee of some kind. And so they're really committing to the space here at Falk or the learning here at Falk. Level C, you have to have 3 years in level B, and then you are now learning, of course, committing still, and you're starting to take some leadership roles, and leading might be being a curricular chair, leading a committee of some kind, teaching some classes, leading a book club, leading some professional development of some kind. So there's many ways to lead in our school. And if you choose to go to this level, you will apply, of course, to move to that level, and then there'll be expectations you have to meet. But every level, like you could stay at level B if you don't really want to jump into anything that involves leadership. But if you do, you'll be supported with a salary jump. And then level D, the final one, it adds the words give back. And so at that level, we're really thinking that you are teaching classes, you're publishing, you are finding ways to take all that you've learned about education and children, capture those experiences and leave them for others to learn from. So you're not just as a 20-year veteran teaching every day, and then when you leave and you retire, everything that you've learned walks out the door when you walk out the door. We want it to be, you know, in the system, in the fabric of education. And so we ask for people to give back at that level. Of course, if you don't advance, you still get the annual raise. The jumps that come with levels would be like $3,000 on top of that, right, as you go from level to level. And that will be defined as we continue to negotiate with our faculty. So that's the promotional structure. So those are the ways that we invest in the people that are working here. It's 10:30, and should I wrap things up? I don't want to affect your agenda. I still have to go through a few more slides with time and money.
I think we probably have like 5 or so more minutes for your presentation. And then what I'd love to do is open it up to questions from the lab committee. Would that work for you?
That works fine for me. I have plenty of time. I just don't want to impact your agenda and delay you in any way. So, okay.
Oh, this is fascinating.
So
Thank you.
I'll go quickly through time. So when we think of time, we think of the daily, the way we use time daily, and then the way we use it in a yearly academic calendar. Daily for teachers, if we want them to do these things of mentoring other teachers and investing in inquiry and things like that, we have to give them time to do those things. Our teachers have 80 minutes of common planning time so that they can work with their partner teachers, their grade-alike teachers, to design authentic learning experiences that are collaborative and engaging. And they also get a 30-minute break every day. So that's something that is important for us. Here's an example of daily schedules. I do believe you have access to these slides, so you can go back and look at the daily schedules. The teachers get their planning time when the students go to their humanities classes. So in the kindergarten through 5th grade, this sample schedule is a 1st and 2nd grade room, and they have their humanities from 1:30 to 2:50, and that's the teacher's planning time, that 80 minutes that the teacher gets. In the middle school, the teachers have this morning time, this 8:30 to 10 o'clock for their planning time, because the kids are in their specialist classes, phys ed and things like that. So I'm going to jump forward. There's so much more I can go into a daily schedule, but I'm keeping it quick. The teachers are on 10-month contracts, and that's very important to us because they need the time before kids come at the end of August to dive into some of the professional development that we really need to do as a whole school. We have plenty of time for whole school meetings. There's about 2 weeks in August where we're able to utilize that time. Some of it is standard, safety, first aid, all that kind. And then there's also usually some whole school initiatives that we want to dive into. This year, we're diving into structured literacy. We have once a month Wednesday early dismissals that brings together the whole faculty for continued professional development. It gives us an hour and a half, an extended meeting time with faculty. And as long as I've been here for 29 years, we've always had weekly faculty meetings on Mondays from 4 to 5. So we have plenty of whole school meeting time. And then the teachers have grade-alike meeting time every day. If we don't have that time in the schedule, we couldn't do the things that we do. We really need the time to talk and to learn from one another. Going through space, thinking about space. The more people we hire, the more office space I need, and we don't have enough. So now people are sharing offices, and that's a problem. So that's something I have to think about. Of course, we need spaces for students that are wide open and allow group work and collaboration. And then we need spaces that support our mission. If we want authentic experiences, we need spaces that take advantage of the geography and the urban campus that we have. For the students. And so here's just something that they do in 3rd grade. They map the city by building 3D structures and then using one of our outdoor spaces to make a grid and actually map the city using map skills that they're developing. We have spaces for children to work collaboratively. The kinds of furniture we order and the way we set up our spaces really help the kids to work collaboratively. We have outdoor spaces, even though we're an urban campus, we've set aside some outdoor space that is specifically supposed to be for their environmental educational experiences. And then also some play experiences like a mud kitchen that we have. We have a Wonder Lab class. It's one of our innovative curriculum. It allows kids to use new technology with familiar older ways of making, like sewing and woodworking and things like that. So, and then getting into money, and then I'll stop. So the money side is probably the hardest part for anyone to understand. The charter says that the university must erect and maintain a school building. That's it. Everything else comes from our budget. And so they will provide external maintenance, grounds, janitorial services, and anything to the exterior of the building. Anything we do interior, the renovation of spaces, materials that we need for class, things like that, all come from our own budget. My budget is separate from, let me see how to stop sharing. There we go. My budget is separate from the universities, but it is managed by the university systems. And it's really, really strange and difficult, but the tuition dollars that we raise pay salaries, they pay all the fringe benefits for teachers and all the materials and the program that we do. And then every once in a while, we have to pay facilities for any extra work that we have above and beyond what our charter agreement says they need to do. So questions?
Dr. Ross-Serrata, thank you so much for that. Let's see if we have questions from the lab committee members. We'll ask our two remote lab committee members first, Dr. Rotherham, or excuse me, Mr. Rotherham or Mr. Hansen. Should you have any questions? You're good? Okay. And then anyone?
No, it's very thorough.
I have a quick question, Dr. Serrata. I'm really interested because, you know, our laboratory schools in Virginia are really focused through a public lens in terms of requirements, you know, meeting all of the regulations and laws and policies that are set at the state and Board of Education level. And I'm wondering, as a private entity, it seems like you have a lot of flexibility and freedom around time, et cetera, that would be a challenge for public entities. But I also knew in doing some research that you have had some interaction with the public education system through Remake Learning in Pittsburgh. And just wondering, how do you see the public-private potential as being able to leverage ideas and innovation into the lab school sphere, understanding that you live in a different world than our public educators do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's one that some of our other public lab schools struggle with. If you wanted to talk to any of them, there's Burris Lab School in Indiana, and then there's Kilby Laboratory School in Alabama that I would invite you to talk to their directors about that. Because they are tied to some of those state systems. So we are accredited, and that's what allows us the capacity to run as an independent school, is that we have to go through an accreditation process. But we're still looking toward the public school system to help inform what we do. There's so much to learn from them and so much for them to learn from us. And so some of the questions or some of the places that we can get really, I think, concerned is when you're facing testing or certain curricular things. There can be we need to do it this way kind of thinking. And what we've learned is that the authentic experiences are more applicable to real learning. And that we know from the hierarchy of learning that when you can apply things and create, you're not just memorizing, you're actually diving deeper into learning. And our kids do really well on a lot of the public school testing that they have to take as they go on to high school. So they leave us in 9th grade and continue on, and they do really well. But you raise a good question. How are you it's sort of the feeling trapped or like you don't have the flexibility with schedule when you are trying to cover certain things. I think it takes someone who is able to look at that standard curriculum like we are with structured literacy and say, where do we have the ability to question how things are being done? And where do we need to follow the program as it is? What's important to maintain and why? And then what kind of decisions can we make and why? And that's something that we're doing with structured literacy as we implement that. Thinking through, like, we can't have teachers just autonomously leaving out whole sections of learning, like repeating phonemic sounds, because a teacher feels like it's just echoing and they don't see the learning. So if they make a decision like that to leave off a piece of a curriculum, sort of an outline of a curriculum, that's where our research coordinator would go in and say, can you tell me about the decision, or one of our division directors, can you tell me about the decision to leave that off? Why are you doing that? Not just go in and say, you're wrong, you have to do this, but to say, why are you doing that? And the teacher will say, I just feel like my students who know it really well are really bored in that moment. And then someone, the division director or the research coordinator would say to them, okay, let me explain to you a little bit about the purpose of that and why it's important, and then help you make a decision that will use what you're learning because of the students in front of you and this desire to keep people engaged, but also not lose the importance of that learning experience. So you kind of have to dive deeper than just doing and really think about what's being asked and how you're doing it. I don't know if that helps at all. I hope so.
Dr. Zara, thank you so much. I think I'm just going to pause for a moment. I believe Mr. Hansen got dropped from the meeting, is trying to get back in. Okay, thank you. My apologies. Dr. Zara, that is excellent. I really appreciate the information that you've provided us. You've given it. First, thank you for your leadership within the International Association of Lab Schools. It's clear you are an expert on international, on lab schools. And I can see why you've been such an asset, not only to other lab schools, but you've been an asset to us here in Virginia today. And I want to really thank you for giving us frameworks to, again, uniquely define the characteristics of lab schools, and then a framework to think about the research funnel. And your language also, I really appreciated, was how to support the adults in the building and how to think about really giving the adults who are engaging in the practice of education support, time, joint planning. That was very helpful. So thank you so much for that information. And also thank you for the referral for 2 other lab schools that you might recommend that we might make an inquiry of. And staff have noted that, and we'll be chatting with them further. And so we appreciate that referral. I'd love to chat with you further. We do have to continue with our agenda today, but I trust that you will be at our disposal should we have any follow-up questions.
I would be happy to answer any more questions and go a little deeper into any one of those areas that would be helpful for your group. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with all of you.
And thank you for sharing your time and expertise with us today.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, that was excellent. Thank you, staff, for making those arrangements as well. At this time, we're going to move to item B, which is final review of the College Partnership Lab School application for Germanna Community College. Dr. Armstrong will be speaking to this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Before I begin, I did want to make sure that we have everyone online, and that is Ms. Landry from Germanna, as well as I believe it's Dr. Byard, who is also here representing JMU as part of that partnership. Members of the committee and Ms. Budiska, I'm pleased to provide you with this overview of the now once reviewed Germanna Community College Future Educators Academy Lab School proposal, which is a partnership among Germanna Community College, Laurel Ridge Community College, James Madison University, and the Superintendent's Region 4 school divisions of Culpeper, Madison, Clark, Fauquier, Frederick, Page, Rappahannock, Shenandoah, Warren, and Winchester City. The goal of FEA, to provide high-quality accelerated teacher education to produce exceptional teachers, is responsive to the continuing shortage of qualified professional teachers in Central Virginia.
Students enrolled in the FEA Lab School will experience hands-on exposure to the profession and participate in a streamlined, scalable model designed to accelerate the path to full teacher licensure, including dual enrollment coursework toward an associate's degree that will include several required courses and experiences needed to achieve full licensure as a Virginia teacher, allowing students of FEA to potentially be graduates and applicants to local school divisions in their openings within 2 years of graduating from the lab school. The VDOE received the FEA application on August 10th, 2023, and in the intervening 3 months, the agency has collaborated with the applicant as follows. During the week of August 21st, 2023, the VDOE subject matter expert team provided detailed feedback in each compliance-related section of their application. The goal of the application review technical expert committee is to document the needed technical expertise and provide counseling to the applicants to identify and correct any potential deficiencies in the planning and implementation of the proposed college partnership laboratory school, determine compliance with state law or regulation, highlight potential problems or red flags with information contained in the Germanna application, and to identify aspects of the proposal that are especially exciting or unique. The subject matter team included and still includes myself, Mr. Rob Gilstrap from the Office of Licensure and School Leadership, Ms. Amy Siepka from the Office of Accountability, Ms. Rebecca Askew from the Office of Policy, Mr. Ed Lanza from the Office of Budgeting, Ms. Melissa Velasquez from the Department of Policy and Communications, Dr. Samantha Hollins from the Department of Special Education and Student Services, and Dr. Dave Myers, our Deputy Superintendent in the Office of Data Research and Technology. Each VDOE subject matter expert was provided with the laboratory school criteria checklist worksheet, which is included in your agenda. Areas of expertise were assigned to various staff subject to their education expertise here at VDOE. The compilation of these comments is included in the spreadsheet that is attached. The completeness and compliance report corresponds to the lab school application and reflects the following dimensions of compliance: an executive summary, mission and vision, educational program, governance, management structure, financial and operations, placement plan, and additional assurances. The applicant, in this case Germanna, was responsive to the subject matter expert feedback and the questions that we provided, and did provide their edits of the application and addendums as required to meet compliance. Items of required attention by the applicant included a revised budget to meet the per pupil funding limit, clarification of compliance with human resources and student records requirements, additional detail related to testing and accountability, and expansion of language related to sustainability. The applicant responded with their edited application and addenda on September 12, 2023, which was subsequently reviewed by the subject matter expert teams on September 15th, 2023. Once it was established that the applicant had provided satisfactory responses to the VDOE, the FEA application was placed on the agenda for first standing committee review on October 3rd, 2023. The FEA presented to the standing committee on October 3rd, responded to questions of the committee, and was approved by the standing committee on October 3rd to proceed to today's second standing committee review. The FEA application was posted for public comment following the October 3rd standing committee meeting on October 12th and remained available until October 27th, and no comment was received. On behalf of the Virginia Department of Education, I submit that the Germanna Community College Future Educators Academy Lab School is compliant and ready for implementation, and I recommend to the committee that the Future Educators Academy be approved on second review to be forwarded to the Virginia Board of Education for their consideration for approval at their November 15th, 2023 meeting. And I do have our representatives here on hand to answer any questions of the committee today.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong. And please, on our behalf, thank the members of the committee for their time and service in reviewing this application.
Yes.
Are there any further questions on the Germanna Community College application from members of the lab committee? Hearing none, at this time, is there a motion to approve the Germanna Community College application on second review and refer the Germanna Community College Lab School application to the Virginia State Board of Education for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well, and note for the record that Mr. Hanson and Mr. Rotherham vote aye as well. And the motion is approved. Congratulations to Germanna Community College. We look forward to the consideration of your application before the Virginia State Board of Education later this month. At this time, we will move to, on behalf of the committee, but before I proceed, I direct the staff to finalize a report with the standing committee's comments that were made at the prior meeting, and to compile the report along with this application and all additional material received by the standing committee, and to bundle this information and refer it to the State Board of Education for consideration at the November meeting. Thank you again for your deliberation on this application. At this time, we'll move to item C. Final review of the College Partnership Laboratory School application from the University of Mary Washington. Mr. Armstrong, you have the floor. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, I'd like to first welcome Dr. Michael Bowling of Stafford County Public Schools and Mr. Peter Kelly, who I believe is also here on behalf of the University of Mary Washington. And they are here to answer any questions of the committee as I go through our review. Dr. Towery, who was here with us, is out of the country currently, but wishes she could be here, and we will share the news upon the conclusion of today's meeting. Members of the committee and Chair Wadiska, I'm pleased to provide you with this review of the now once reviewed University of Mary Washington Academy of Technology and Innovation ATI Lab School proposal, a collaboration among the University of Mary Washington and Stafford County Public Schools as the fiscal agent and hiring agent, as well as 4 other school divisions in Superintendent's Region 3, which include Caroline County, Fredericksburg City, King George County, and Spotsylvania County. The goal of ATI is to combine an emphasis on computer and data science fields with innovative interdisciplinary teaching practices and learning experiences for high school students, and is responsive to the continuing demand for skilled graduates prepared to enter the computer and data science industry. Additionally, a local market demand in the region affected by ATI. The student experience at ATI will be characterized by project-based authentic learning approaches, where field experiences will be leveraged whenever possible to ensure students engage in authentic learning and real-world problem solving. This approach will ensure students are able to witness and experience the application of computer science, data science, and broader technology across content areas and economic industries through work-based learning experiences. As part of this approach, intentionality will be given towards the provision of externships and internships to build the durable skills necessary to enter the workforce. UMW will leverage all 3 of its colleges to support the efforts of the lab school, providing content experts from the College of Arts and Sciences and the College of Business to consult on the development of curricular resources and field experiences in partnership with the College of Education and Stafford County Public Schools. The VDOE received the ATI application on August 7th, 2023, and in the intervening 3 months, the agency has collaborated with the applicant as follows. During the week of August 21st, 2023, the VDOE subject matter expert team provided detailed feedback in each compliance-related section of the application. If it pleases the committee, I will move through the description of that subject matter team since we took care of that in our last review.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong.
Thank you. The applicant was responsive to subject matter expert feedback and questions and provided edits to their application and addendums as required to meet compliance. Items that required attention by the applicant included clarification on the targeted student population, attachment of links that detailed the instructional and curriculum model, schedule, governance structure, and parental involvement plan of ATI, a code of conduct, and additional detail on financials and clarification related to the proposed facility. An on-site visit was scheduled to provide technical assistance in preparation for final application submission, responsive to subject matter expert feedback, and to better assess the true facility needs of ATI. This visit took place at the UMW Stafford campus on Tuesday, September 19th, 2023, with Ms. Wadiska, myself, and Dr. Towery of UMW and ATI. The applicant responded to on-site recommendations and VDOE subject matter expert feedback with their edited application and addenda on September 25th, 2023, which was subsequently reviewed by the subject matter expert team immediately. Once it was established that the applicant had provided satisfactory responses to the VDOE, the ATI application was placed on the agenda for first standing committee review on October 3rd, 2023. ATI presented to the standing committee on October 3rd, responded to questions of the committee, and was approved by the standing committee on October 3rd to proceed to today's second standing committee review. The ATI application was posted for public comment following the October 3rd Standing Committee meeting on October 12th, which remained available until October 27th, and no comment was received. On behalf of the Virginia Department of Education, I submit that the University of Mary Washington Academy of Technology and Innovation Lab School is compliant and ready to implement, and I recommend to the committee that the Academy of Technology and Innovation be approved on second review to be forwarded to the Virginia Board of Education for their consideration for approval at their November 15th, 2023 meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong. Again, please thank the members of the committee for their tremendous work on this application, and certainly thank University of Mary Washington for the submittal and modifications made therein to their application. Are there any questions at this time from members of the lab committee? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the University of Mary Washington's application for a college lab school on second review and refer the matter to the Virginia State Board of Education for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let the record note that Mr. Hanson, Mr. Rotherham also virtually vote aye. The chair votes aye as well, and the motion carries. The Virginia University of Mary Washington's college lab school application is approved. And on behalf of the committee, it's my pleasure to direct the staff at VDOE to finalize a report with the standing committee's comments, to compile that report along with the application and all additional material received by the standing committee, as well as the University of Mary Washington, to refer and recommend that the University of Mary Washington's application be presented to the Virginia State Board of Education at the November meeting with the notation of recommendation for approval. Thank you. And congratulations to the University of Mary Washington.
Thank you, team.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here virtually with us today. At this time, we will, thank you. We look forward to visiting your schools. At this time, we move on to item D. All right, item D is first review of a college partnership lab school application from George Mason University. And today we have a number of experts and representatives here from George Mason University who have joined us to discuss their lab school application. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you on behalf of our partners, George Mason University, Novo Community College, and Fairfax County Public Schools. I'd like to present now our vision. The vision of this lab school is to prepare adaptable, lifelong learners.
Would you like to introduce your entire team you have here today, as well as yourself? I know there's a number of representatives that came all the way from George Mason as well as Nova. And if they'd like to come up to the microphone, introduce themselves. My apologies if I'm putting you on the spot, but you made the drive and you're here, and we'd love to have an opportunity for you to say hello to the committee members. Introduce yourself, and if you could briefly describe your role with the lab school, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Would you like to share?
Hello, my name is Kristen Carter. I'm Associate Director of Dual Enrollment at Northern Virginia Community College. Good morning, Cami Singuro, Executive Director, Institute for Digital Innovation, also Professor in Information Sciences and Technology Department at George Mason University. I'm also a co-PI on this grant.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Daly. I'm working as a project manager for Access Academy at Mason. Thank you.
Now I can't remember if I introduced myself, but I guess I will. I am
Excellent.
the Dean of the College of Education and Human Development at George Mason University, and I've been thrilled to lead this team of really committed colleagues who want to just create something very innovative for our students. So as indicated here in our vision, and one last thing, our Fairfax County Public Schools partners send their regrets. It's the end of the quarter and professional development day for our teachers. So it was just really difficult for them to make the drive. So our mission for Access Academy is to prepare adaptable, lifelong learners that collaboratively and creatively solve complex problems in any settings. And it's really important because we know that technologies, the nature of work, workers, and the workplace are just going to continue to evolve. So we want to make sure that our students have those that adaptability that is the product of our offering. And so to do that, we envision providing a new innovative set of pathways for traditionally underserved students toward high demand, well compensated careers, and at the same time working to that 2 and 4 year degree to maximize their earning potential over their entire work lives. So there's 4 innovative or areas of innovation that are integrated into this lab school. First, what we intend to do is provide a problem-based learning IT curriculum design, and it's designed from that problem-based learning approach with additional layers of complexity from their junior year towards their senior year. And it really is something that translates to the work environment as our students are called upon to partner with others to solve complex problems. The other innovative element is the idea of employability skills. Some may refer to it as 21st century skills. These are really important to employers, and things like systems thinking, critical thinking, collaboration across a variety of different stakeholders and partners, being flexible, having excellent communication skills are things that employers are really looking for, not just today and not just for one career pathway, but really across really all career trajectory. So we want to make sure that there's an emphasis in this area of skill sets in addition to content matter areas. Also, this competency-based approach, it's really important that students are able to demonstrate the skills that employers are looking for. So the employability skills create certainly one set of competencies, but also specific competencies in IT are going to be the focus of the learning objectives, but also performance-based assessments. And finally, the learn and earn model, which creates an opportunity for students to develop real on-the-job experience through paid internships at their senior year with our industry partners. It just provides one additional level of practice and career readiness when they leave school. The Learning Innovation Lab Fuse at Mason Square is one of our contexts. It's going to be the setting for an immersive experience where students will have the opportunity to carry out their on-the-job paid internships, which embodies a learn and earn model, but also they're going to be working hand in hand with researchers from Mason, which are, of course, engaging in partnerships with industry partners, really at the cutting edge of solving the most pressing societal problems. So students will be in this environment, both with industry partners and also researchers. In addition, this setting is going to serve as a learning innovation lab where teacher candidates and service teachers and IT faculty can continue to develop their problem-based learning skills and other innovative instructional pedagogies. Active learning and development is also something that can be observed through the state-of-the-art environment where we have significant setups to really look at the behavior and the science of learning. And so it's really set up for a variety of different on-site observations and field experiences. The transdisciplinary collaborations is also something really important. We know, of course, that to solve the world's most pressing problems, we can't really just employ one perspective or one discipline or one partner. We really have to work across partners such as industry, academia, government, and others. We also are very proud of our collaboration with the School of Computing and IT. So it's going to be both educational experts and also information technology experts and researchers and faculty working together. And of course, part of that broad learning ecosystem is consistent on the relationships and partnerships, already established partnerships with Nova Community College and Fairfax County Public Schools, which really provides the environment for the dual enrollment, as well as other wraparound services such as tutoring, library resources, writing laboratories, and many others. So in this very detailed graph, hopefully everybody can kind of see the specific elements. we really have two consistent on-ramps, which is the junior and senior year at the high school level. But what we'd like to do, and although we're starting in the first year with the junior and senior ramps, starting in year 2, we do foresee then scaling the interventions all the way to 9th grade by providing our teachers with professional development opportunities in problem-based learning, ensuring that there's the integration of those competencies in the skill sets that we talked about earlier in terms of employability skills and such. And as much as possible, we'd like to align to other STEM programs in the school divisions. As we get into the sophomore year, we're also adding the school visits from our industry partners, presentations that really raise awareness about a variety of high-paying careers that really get the students excited about these. As we look into the junior year, we'll also start providing the direct experiential problem-based learning IT curriculum. Dual enrollment then kicks in here in this junior year, of course, across all the years with ongoing teacher professional development. We're also planning to incorporate peer mentoring, and we have a variety of different structures already to do that, including our early identification program, which really helps students at risk and traditionally underrepresented to just expose them to all kinds of opportunities as far as college options. Here in this junior year, again, we also will be providing the immersive Fuse Research and Innovation Campus experience, which we described just a bit ago. And at the junior year, they do begin to develop that on-the-job experience, working with employers and other partners through an unpaid internship. Senior year offers another on-ramp, and again, providing those same kind of benefits in addition to a more intensive employability skills development. We felt strongly that in some cases, some students may not really be thinking of those after high school options until their senior year. So we wanted to make sure that we could provide something for them. In this case, it'll be a more intensive experience with employability skills development, as well as working hand in hand with our Mason students through a peer mentoring model. And again, here we would be offering the on-the-job paid internship to really develop that interest and the experience in an environment that is aligned also to completing their university career, so that there is that kind of bi-directional benefit. And as you have here, really thinking very structurally about our outcomes and scaffolding them from short-term to midterm to long-term. This is really important for us because, as you will see later when I discuss the sustainability plan, it's really important to be very clear on what we're trying to accomplish so that we can monitor progress along the way. We know that the teacher component is quite important, so we want to make sure that our teachers are supported in developing competence in problem-based learning, and that the students are developing their foundational skills in problem-based learning and employability skills, and that they're also receiving the wide range of administrative and financial supports to make sure that they're able to access higher education. Mid and long term, we're progressing through 11th and 12th graders earning anywhere between 15 to 30 dual enrollment credits, which is a significant time saving and budget saving as well. As we progress on to the long term, we're really looking to ensure that students have an opportunity to earn 2- and 4-year degrees, that employers find these graduates well prepared and are excited to continue to recruit new ones, and that Access graduates really are prepared and positioned to increase their earning potential throughout a lifetime, which we know with a 2- and 4-year degree is still really critical. So our governance structure is similar to some of the things that we've heard just a bit ago. The idea would be for myself representing George Mason University would report directly to the Virginia Department of Education, along with my colleagues at Nova Community College and FCPS. which our counterparts would be the chief academic officers. The director of the lab school will report directly to me. And the team would include academic and career coach for the lab academy, professional development coordinator, the advisor and recruiter, and of course, the wide range of faculty and staff from George Mason University who will also be supporting the project, the lab school, excuse me. Initially in our launch, we have identified wonderful accommodations and spaces at Annandale High School. And we plan to start with the 11th and 12th grade in the initial year, and thereafter begin to expand our work to 9th and 10th grade professional development of teachers and such as the other things that we mentioned earlier. We will always, this is something important to highlight, which I mentioned just a bit ago, we'll always offer a junior and senior on-ramp for students, even if they did not begin with the 9th and 10th grade foundational problem-based learning. And just here, we also have our Nova Community College Annandale campus, which is nearby, making it easier to access those college courses as well. And on the financial, just to highlight over the 5-year grant, the costs are estimated to be at $6.8 million approximately, of which the funding requested is $6,073,000. And George Mason is prepared to cost share in the amount of $741,000 at this point. We, of course, will continue to do quite a bit of fundraising and, really sharing this opportunity with potential donors who I think would also be excited for this innovative approach to educating our students. After the initial pilot year and any improvements, I want to highlight that we are considering this a pilot year because we've designed something that we think will work well, and we need to collect data collection, ongoing evaluation and monitoring is going to be really critical to make sure we understand what is working for whom and under what conditions, and what needs to be tweaked before we can really engage in a scaling up plan. And so here, as I mentioned before, in terms of the sustainability, certainly our engagement among the partners is really, really critical because we're leveraging our assets and our expertise here. So Mason, Fairfax County Public Schools, Nova, and our industry partners, the engagement through a number of activities. If you look at the design that we've engaged, really it requires everyone to pitch in and collaborate. Ongoing monitoring and evaluation, as I mentioned, will be a really critical way to generate the input and the feedback that we need to make really good decisions for the future of the program and our students. Continued diversified funding strategy, ongoing professional development for educators and support and recognition and incentives is just simply so important for them. Another piece that's really critical is fostering the community among the alumni and the families, because I think in addition to sharing the real impact that the lab school experience has had on them, I think that it's also part of developing trust and credibility with other partners and donors, because the idea is to scale up eventually. So that's going to be really critical. I mentioned the use of data to inform strategic decisions. And of course, the scalable and replicable model really do depend on understanding what parts of this model are really critical. There's so many different factors that we need to understand and study to make sure that we understand when scaling up, these are the non-negotiables. And here are some of the other areas that perhaps we have flexibility around. And so with that, I'd be happy to take additional questions. Just a few pictures here, what we envision our Fuse innovative lab school space to be. We envision it to be a very exciting place of learning and doing, and really having our students look forward to engaging. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. At this time, I'd like to open it to questions from lab committee members. Mr. Hanson or Mr. Rotherham, do you have any questions? Mr. Hanson?
Well, thank you very much for the presentation, and as a George Mason alumnus, I'm just thrilled to see the proposal coming forward, and thank you for the partnerships that you have developed to bring it forward. And maybe I missed it being remote, but maybe if you could just help me understand a little bit more clearly the pipeline of the student population, both initially, but also as you build this out, and is it going to be geographically around the Annandale area? And if it's more broadly, how is the transportation going to be handled for those students?
Yes, thank you for that question. So we selected Annandale in particular because it has quite a diverse population. So we thought for the pilot year would be a really good location to have access to those students who were wanting to make sure that have something that works for them in terms of a pathway toward both higher education and well-compensated careers. The idea would be for students to draw upon students who would have gone to Annandale to begin with. So in terms of transportation for that initial pilot year, it would rely on what Fairfax Schools already provides. For the subsequent years, we would envision drawing or really scaling up to a regional consortia. And so the details of that that design has not been set at this point. We do want to collect some initial data first to see what happens from this one site approach. We do intend to have bus transportation secured from Fairfax Schools to make the 1 day a week travel to the Arlington campus. But the majority of those activities will be at Annandale, so they'll still be able to access a lot of the extracurricular activities and resources that would have been set for them.
Maybe just one quick follow-up, just in terms of the $6 million budget, just trying to understand a little bit on the ROI. What would be the capacity of the student body that you would envision in the long term?
So initially, we're in the year 2 to 5, we're expecting about 120 students at this point. And again, this is preliminary. So I think understanding what are those critical elements that really make a difference in the learning outcomes will be really important. I think in many cases in other school divisions, there are some current programmings and assets that we could tap into. Understanding which of those are really critical will help us with the scaling up plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other members of the committee? Dr. Moran?
I really appreciate the competency-based approach that you're embedding in this, particularly in the content areas of focus that you're going after, that I'm interested in it and have been working with a high school in Clark County, Nevada, which actually is quite a bit bigger than Fairfax. And they have been building out similar kinds of academies all over their district to try to do exactly what you're doing. I don't think that they have the partnership at the higher education level, but one of the principals there said to me that his goal is that they move their kids from a focus on seat time to revenue generation, that he would like to see every one of the students going through that comprehensive high school able to generate revenue prior to graduating from high school and be able to leave with the skill sets that not are just about the content of what you might see as CTE traditional pathways, but also be highly educated, well-educated young people. And so I'm wondering if that's something that you've talked about, because I mean, Virginia does have a seat time waiver that allows kids to move through coursework at a much faster pace, but it does require you to have to really dig in with a superintendent to figure out whether that could be relevant to the pathways that kids are going to take through the program. That's of interest to me, is to see some models in Virginia go after that through a competency lens. So I'm pleased to see this today, that you've got that embedded.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that that's certainly a possibility. I think understanding very clearly what the observable skills that we really are aiming for, then gives us the flexibility on the how to accomplish that. So focus on the content solely or focus on knowledge test solely gives us one level of learning, but it doesn't necessarily give us that ability for them to demonstrate performance and competence, which employers are looking for. So yeah, I think that that's definitely a possibility.
Well, and also tying to it, you know, similarly to the Academies of Hampton, that they've really laid out very clearly in Hampton. These are the certifications, the licenses, the variety of different ways that kids can, through some external evaluations, demonstrate those competencies. So I would hope that that would be something that you could fold in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Certifications that are available now or credentialing that's available either through our partners or others that we might be able to create. In fact, also in alignment with what teachers may also be able to generate as I would say demonstrations of advanced professional development and skill sets is something that we're looking at as well.
But that's just, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Maybe just one question. I loved both in your application and on your presentation, it was the sort of the stacked bar graphs by grade.
Yes.
Which was incredibly exciting, but you could tell that there are a lot of different sort of micro options for students kind of within there. Can you talk a little bit about how kind of what is those wraparound supports that you help them with making decisions as to whether or not they do a learn to earn or whether they pursue dual enrollment? Just how do they help make sense of all the different sort of myriad of pathways you're presenting them?
Yeah, so we do have a career coach that's going to be really instrumental. So a couple of things. I had mentioned the early identification program, which is a program that's already fully launched and structured. So we're leveraging as much as possible resources that already exist. But that is an introduction to students about what is available, what different pathways such as the Access Academy might be available to them. And really the junior, every option that you see here, rather than being optional, is really the full treatment for that grade level. And so we would be expecting all of the students, for example, in that junior year to be concluding that junior year with an unpaid internship, for example.
Okay.
We would be providing access to the writing center, to mentorship, to really all of the things that we've listed here, just to make sure that they have that additional wraparound support to make that that progress throughout that academic and really work experience as smooth as possible.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you.
Super. Mr. Rotherham?
Thank you. This is great. I'm excited about this. I'm excited to move forward. I have a question that essentially builds on and goes almost the inverse of Mr. Hansen's. I get how you're attracting students and what that's going to look like in the growth. Can you just talk a little about what supports can be available for students and their families who choose this path and then decide this actually isn't the right one? What supports can be available to help them reintegrate into their own school or make a different choice?
Yeah, so one of the things about the model is it isn't so much a different pathways as much as it provides additional layers of support. And so if students decide that this is not for them, they're still going to be working toward their graduation requirements for high school. And so they would just continue on to that. They can choose different electives that they would have chosen had they not been using their elective towards dual enrollment courses.
Excellent. Well, first I want to say thank you for a very well-written, coherent, thoughtfully organized application.
Thank you.
It is quite clear when you read the application, the amount of effort and thought that has been put into your plan, as well as the considerable time that has been invested in thinking how that plan will be executed at a high quality way. So I want to first thank you for that. I know these applications are very difficult to write and the questions are a bit clunky. And so when we see an applicant that, despite the clunkiness, provide eloquence and coherence it is really appreciated. So thank you first for that. So I know there was probably a team, and please give our gratitude to the team.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I too, like Mr. Bailey, really appreciated the vignette to help show what a day in the life might look like, or a year in the life of a student, so that we can see what that student experience would look like. And it's really exciting to see the multiple pathways that students would have, ramps into the program, ramps out of the program, a coherence between, just as Dr. Moran was noting, an application of a gaining of skills, a demonstration of skills, and then a link of those skills to an external credential in the marketplace that'll have tangible value when they leave their high school experience. So that was really wonderful to see. And certainly we are always excited to see applicants that showcase the importance of having training grounds for future teachers. I mean, that is an area that every applicant at this juncture needs to be giving serious consideration to. And that was fundamental to the plan that you put forward. The one question I do have is on who will be able to attend your school. In your overview, it notes at-risk students. The law is really clear. It has to be open to all students. There will be some guidance and best practices being issued from the VDOE on how to effectively run a lottery. But if you could speak for a few moments about what will be the process to apply for consideration to attend the lab school, just so that we can kind of have that on the record to further affirm that it is really open to all students.
Sure. It is indeed open to all students, and we selected Annandale because it is going, given that it's such a diverse school and population, that we really would have the widest possible pool to draw from in terms of, you know, all students. We're really working with the early identification program also as a main recruitment partner, and really kind of doing outreach to everybody. As we know, sometimes the information doesn't really flow well to everybody, and those students end up being at risk of not taking advantage of many possibilities that they have. And so it really is based on as wide as possible outreach across, in this first year, Annandale High School, to make sure everyone has access to this, and that it isn't seen as just for high achieving students or just for a different kind of students, but for everybody, in fact. And so we'll be working with early identification program to make sure that we leverage some of their outreach activities already, and then making sure that we're creating a very clear process thereafter for everybody to have a chance to know about this.
No, thank you for that. And your application goes into this in some detail, but I do appreciate you further expounding on it verbally. The family engagement strategies that are proposed are excellent. And thank you for the additional due diligence, just as you said, to make sure that everyone knows. Sometimes not everyone does, right? So thank you for that. All right, are there any further questions or comments from members of the committee at this time? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve George Mason University's application for first review and post the application for our 10-day public comment period?
Give Bill the chance.
So moved by Bill. As an alumnus, we'll allow that. Is there a second?
A second.
And there's a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Please note for the record, Mr. Hanser, Mr. Rotherham vote aye virtually. The chair votes aye as well. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Committee. Thank you.
On behalf of the committee, I direct the staff to post the George Mason University application for a 10-day public comment period in accordance with the standing committee's procedures, then compile any comments received by the public, to review those comments and to present them to the standing committee for consideration upon second review at the December lab committee meeting. All right. That concludes our action items at this part of the agenda. We're going to now move to presentations and written reports, and this will begin the Dr. Andy Armstrong show for this portion of the meeting. So feel free to just keep the floor and keep going, pause so that we can ask questions, but the floor is yours.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. This month, I'd like to provide a few brief updates, and if I could hit there it is. Thank you. our update on our planning grant expenditures. And as you can see, since last month, we have fully approved the Ferrum College planning grant application. And we've also received 2 additional planning grant applications. Those won't be listed here because they have yet to be approved, but they are in process now. And that includes another planning grant application that's been submitted by George Mason University with a partnership with Frederick County and Shenandoah counties. And then there is also an application from James Madison University, who is applying for a planning grant as well for their ongoing work with their Workplace Readiness Academy with Rockingham County Public Schools. We are currently, and I do want to thank, before I go any further, our Planning Grant Review Committee, which has rotated through and seen all the applications you have in the spreadsheet in front of you, and they're still working to do that. And that's led by Ms. Schultz here in the agency. I do want to thank them publicly as we continue to accept planning grant applications. But for the record and for the public, I will note that with our deadline approaching here quickly at the end of June to obligate our funds, we encourage anyone out there who still would like to apply for a planning grant to do so as soon as possible so that we can go ahead and work with you to work toward that submission of your full application. So currently we do have a balance now of approximately $1.5 million. So we have spent close to $3.5 million of the planning grant fund. We did extend, I will note, the planning grant deadlines. These were all granted for 1 year. We did find it would be beneficial for our applicants, many of whom are funding staff positions and still working on applications, to have some additional time to utilize their funds. There was no provision of additional funding, but we did extend all of our planning grants that were awarded prior to August 1st of this year by 4 months. So they now have 16 months rather than 12 months to ensure that they have time to develop their application. And that has been met with appreciation from many of our applicants, many of whom we've seen in person recently in the last couple of weeks. Any questions about where we are currently with our planning grant fund?
What is the final sort of drop dead for anybody to get their planning grant through the process, through here to the state board at this point? Dr. Armstrong.
Thank you for asking, Dr. Moran. I sent a detailed communication out 2 weeks ago, Friday, that went to anyone who is either in our pipeline right now as a planning grant recipient or who I've spoken to who was considering applying. And what it comes down to is that we need to have our applications for lab school implementations, such as the one that we heard today from George Mason, submitted to the VDOE, to our office for review, no later than the beginning of February. And that allows for the runway for us to review the application in our agency, provide it to you all for first and second review, and then provide it to the state board before we provide the 90 days for contract ratification. So that being said, Dr. Moran, I think the timeline for the planning grant, and I put this in my communication, if you would like to apply for a planning grant, that's fine, but that deadline is going to have to drive everything. So if you apply for a planning grant, as we do have a few that are in process tomorrow, it doesn't change the fact that we still have to have your application submitted by the beginning of February. So that is really going to be up to the applicant to ensure that they meet those deadlines, but we are still taking them as we speak.
First, I'd like to comment that we do want to thank Ms. Schultz and the members of the committee that have been reviewing the planning grant applications for their time and expertise. This has been a tremendous amount of work, and they've really done an exceptional job. Did so very swiftly. Most of it done last year without fanfare, and they do deserve our gratitude and appreciation. And I really also want to compliment Dr. Armstrong. We have had many conversations, and he is proactively reaching out to not only planning grant awardees, but educating them on the timeline that was just shared and discussed, and also the importance of providing an automatic extension to the planning grant awardees so that they can continue to work on their application. This was something that came up in one of our site visits. We heard from one of our potential lab school applicants that the deadline of November 1 for distribution of funds was going to create some real challenge for them to continue, frankly, just to remain on salary and complete their application. So again, I want to just highlight that VDOE is really, I think throughout this process, we've really kind of had two guiding stars. The first has been the importance of public transparency that would produce a high quality process. The second is that we are good partners and really work alongside with our applicants, meeting them where they're at, quite literally in some cases, getting on the road and meeting them where they're at, but really being responsive and supporting them through this process. And the work that Dr. Armstrong is leading behind the scenes with the planning grant awardees to educate them about the timeline, the process to move through and to submit an application has really been a model for that shared collaboration and partnership with applicants. So thank you, Dr. Armstrong, for your work there.
Thank you for your support. And I will say that all dovetails because as I have these individual conversations with applicants as they're preparing their application, it's informing our work too, as we look at making significant revisions down the road to our application, as we provide guidance that you see today, one that I'll be speaking about in a minute for per pupil funding, best practice for lottery. Those initiatives are sourced in these conversations that I've been having on a regular basis with applicants, potential applicants. Just last Friday, I spoke to another team at UVA that was considering applying for a planning grant. We've been on site at JMU, Mountain Gateway, Mary Washington, Emory and Henry. When during our time in Abingdon, I spent a few hours with the team out there, and someone I'm forgetting, but we've taken the road tour. It's been great for everyone. So we're excited about what we see coming through.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong, for that update. At this point, do you want to move to item E then?
I would love to.
Okay, thank you.
Item E is our pipeline presentation. I took this and I did revise it a bit to make it more clear for the public about where all of our applicants are in the process. And I'm gonna skip over to that if I can. Oh, we're not there yet. I'm going to ask my tech team to give me a hand here. I'm sorry. I just jumped way ahead. You'll see in your agenda, thank you, in the pipeline presentation, I've taken this and made it a very easy to read table. And I developed this a few weeks ago. So yellow is good. Yellow means that we have accomplished that step. So you can see that I've ordered this from those who have accomplished more yellow than to those who have not. And this includes 19 of our lab school applicants, which I include from among that list of planning grant recipients that you saw in our previous presentation. And you can also add that it is there. Great. Richard Bland, their application was received recently. They did not apply for a planning grant, but they are in the pipeline and their application is now with our VDOE team to review. James Madison University, as I mentioned, did apply for a planning grant. So since I created this presentation, that's changed too. I've ordered this from left to right, planning grant approved to contract execution. I've also indicated the superintendent's regions from which each of our applicants comes. I think that's important to note. We have a very good geographic diversity in our applicants right now in our potential lab schools. And I have had conversations with, I'd say, all except for maybe two of these institutions individually, and have communicated with them either way via email to ensure that they're aware of our timeline. So wanted to provide that for you. Also, you can see here, this is suggested. It's not set in stone, but where we are right now, we received our Richard Bland application this month. We anticipate receiving an application from UVA. They were saying November 8th potentially for their submission. And then today we've reviewed GMU for Standing Committee 1, and then we approved UMW and Germanna for 2. So you can see it cascade from there each month. We're hoping to receive applications from these institutions and more in the months ahead. That includes Emory and Henry, Eastern Shore Community College, 2 applications from ODU, James Madison, Mountain Gateway, Ferrum, Norfolk State, Lynchburg, Virginia Union, Piedmont Virginia Community College, and Roanoke. And we did receive an application from Central Virginia Community College as well. We're currently reviewing that and providing them with feedback. So that is the cascading effect of our application timeline right now. And we also added our interactive map. This is a screenshot. This is live, and I do have a link that I will share as we do our website revisions. But this gives you a quick snapshot of where all of our potential lab schools are located here in the state. And again, we'll keep this updated and suitable for public viewing as well on our website. Questions about our pipeline? Yes, ma'am, Dr.
There is no applicant from Region 8 yet.
It's the only one. Yes.
Okay.
And that would be the South Side, Virginia. So that is the one region where we do not have any planning grant applicants.
We had one and they withdrew.
Yes, and that did not go all the way through. Have not had contact with anyone else from any of the institutions in that part of the state as of late.
As you can see, we have a very busy several months ahead of us. And so we're looking forward to the work. Thank you again for the update of this chart. The visuals are incredibly helpful. And to note for the public, these items will be continually updated, not only on the website, but they will be updated. Dr. Armstrong will be coming back each month and providing us with a verbal update as well. At this time, why don't we proceed with item F, which is a memorandum on per pupil funding.
All right. You'll see in your agenda the memorandum on per pupil funding, and this was a question that had been brought up again in several of our applications. And back in August of 2022, there was a presentation provided by the Secretary of Education, I believe in front of this committee. I'm not mistaken, not the state board, but the idea was that we needed to create some reasonable limits on the asks of our college partnership lab school applicants. And thanks to the help of my colleagues in the Department of Finance and Budgeting, they were able to take the average per pupil share from a variety of sources within the direct aid formula and provide a per pupil number of 9,500, excuse me. You all have $9,578. And essentially what I'm informing the applicants is that when you take your year-over-year enrollment and divide it into your ask, your annual ask, it cannot exceed that number. That would be separate from your startup funds, which you can ask for up to $1 million. But this number two is based on FY24 budget calculation. So this can, again, fluctuate from fiscal year to fiscal year. But we do have that memorandum, and we are providing that guidance to our applicants as well as they develop their budgets for their applications. So the memo explains that in much more detail, but I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Any questions on this item? Again, this is in response to, thank you, gentlemen. This is in response to inquiries and comments that we've received from the lab school applicants that they were hoping for greater ease to understand this calculation. And I'm glad we were able to deploy the expertise at VDOE to do the high math on this one, because it's not an easy calculation to arrive at. So thank you for the presentation of this item. Why don't we proceed then with item H?
Certainly. Item H, similar item that you're seeing that's a result of the conversations we've had with applicants. Lottery might sound like a real simple term, but it's a little more complex than you may imagine, especially when we are ensuring compliance with the law that we make our lab schools open to any student in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And in that spirit, we were able to develop this best practice on administration for lotteries for college partnership lab schools. And we are going to inform our applicants of this to, again, it saves time too. That's what it comes down to. We have applicants that will get mired in some of the minutia around compliance, and there are things that we can do to really make that more clear. And this is one of those areas. I do want to thank Dr. Breezy, Janet Breezy, who's been one of our technical assistants. It helps here with our applicants, and in her experience in another state was able to give us a very nice template to use that was reviewed by the OAG. And we will be providing this to our applicants. They, again, can propose a different way to administer the lottery, but we feel this is best practice and we'll communicate that to them. But as you can see in the memo, it outlines a lot of very practical and compliance steps on how to administer this process on behalf of their application.
Any questions on this item? For the members of the committee, you will know that this particular item has been met with great smiles and gratitude from lab school applicants. They're like, oh, thank you. I mean, because everyone wants to do this well. and do it right and do it within the compliance of the law as well as the spirit of the law.
It reduces vulnerability.
Exactly, exactly. Reduces vulnerability and errors. All right, so at this time, we're going to talk about something, item I, which is the development of a college partnership lab school professional learning community.
Yes.
This is very exciting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Simultaneously, as we are approving applications and providing assistance to applicants as they submit their applications for lab schools, we really need to start to stand up a network for our newly opened lab schools that will be coming online as early as less than a year from now, as well as for those applicants. And this is going to promote the sustainability of the lab school initiative well past the 5 years that this grant will provide for. I was thinking about it when Dr. Serrata was giving her presentation. I hope in 100 years, someone's doing a slide presentation about the beginning of the Germanna Future Educators Academy that was provided by this committee, back in 2023. And it's still flourishing. But to do that, we need to be purposeful about how we really provide the opportunity to network for our lab schools and for our applicants. And you all heard from IALS, which Dr. Serrata is a part of, as Ms. Wadiska mentioned, about those 5 tenets of lab schools, and to really ground our work to provide support and resources to our applicants in our new lab schools around teacher prep, research, curriculum development, innovation, and professional growth. And you're seeing that in the applications. It's heartening for me when I hear from a Dr. Serrata who's in an established lab school, and from other folks we're going to hear from in the months ahead. And we see the same things happening in the applications that we're reviewing. That means we're doing this the right way. But to continue that, we want to make sure that we're providing our lab schools the support they need to be sustainable well past the 5 years that we have. So let's focus on those higher ed K-12 division partnerships and on the enhancement of teaching, learning, and leadership. Staff development opportunities, curriculum view, and recruitment are things that any school, any public school, any independent school is going to have to wrestle with, and they're going to have to adapt and evolve as their school grows and as time moves on and demands change. So how can we really proactively do what we can to structure that network for them? Let's refine expectations around innovation and outcomes. Let's make sure that evidence-based practice is at the forefront in the instruction leadership in our lab schools. And let's leverage the scale to really advocate for that support of our program and the expansion of it. But that mentoring and partnership to our applicants is going to be crucial. And this is not a one and done initiative. And we want to start looking forward and start to develop that network sooner rather than later for our applicants. So go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Armstrong, thank you. For members of the committee, this is something that each of you have spoken to me about privately, as well as we've discussed here in the committee, the importance of creating a network. And so Dr. Armstrong is going to walk through some next steps. We've heard from you that you really want a plan, really want to see how the lab schools will be supported, how they will have a professional community that is created. And so this is the reflection of much internal work as to how that might be executed by VDOE. Please continue, Mr. Armstrong. Dr. Armstrong.
And we also are working to leverage the resources that are at our disposal as well. Our work here in the agency, our bandwidth is limited, but there are also organizations and individuals in the Commonwealth who can really help us take this to a next step. We're exploring every option for that, but to do this in practical terms, we'll need to set minimum membership requirements for the group. How many approved and operational lab schools, and a timeline for that implementation. What will the leadership be? Will that be sourced here in the agency? Will we consider someone who's outside the agency who could possibly lead that with some detailed experience with lab schools? Have some type of kickoff or summit to identify the priorities and logistics of that group, mission, vision, strategic goals, just boilerplate 101 for any organization, communications and a marketing plan, which includes your website, social media, and just idea sharing platforms for our lab schools. And then what are the outcomes? How can we develop some statistics and data to really inform the needs and priorities of that network and continue to leverage those national and international opportunities for learning? All of our lab schools, to hear from someone like we did this morning from the Falk School or from Dr. Ramos from ILS. We'll be hearing from other lab schools in the months ahead, keeping those networks engaged is going to be critical. As we all know, to have these empathetic colleagues in any endeavor you're taking is going to be valuable, and we know it will be for our lab schools as well. So again, this is very conceptual right now, I know, but I want to make it clear to the committee that this is not something we're simply putting on the back burner. We know that the mission critical work right now is getting our applications moving and getting them in front of you and in front of our state board, but we know we can't neglect this. We want to make this a sustainable initiative. So just laying out some steps for you all, and happy to answer any questions or take any suggestions.
I hope what comes through in Dr. Armstrong's presentation of this item is also that we're really trying to proactively think about the professional learning community and the support for lab schools prior to us having a number of them as well. You know, there's roughly 200 lab schools in the world. At the end of this process, we'll see how many we have here in Virginia, but we'll have at this juncture potentially, you know, several, and we would certainly want to make sure that they have support for each other, for the continuance of that work, and the support to learn and apply what is learned, and to share that broadly across the Commonwealth. I think that's how we've all discussed we'll have the greatest benefit from the investment that's being made here, is when we all benefit from the information and knowledge that's gained through that, such as was discussed this morning, developing the innovative curriculum. What works, what's effective, what's a differentiator, sharing out those lessons. We know that Virginia has a long history of innovation in public schools, and this would be a way to capture and share and elevate that information. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, hearing none, then I think that concludes the Dr. Armstrong show for now.
Over. Yes, it is.
Thank you. Excellent. All right. And are there any, for a discussion of current issues, I have one item I'm just going to bring up briefly, but are there anything from members of the committee first? No? Okay. I will be engaging the members of the committee as well as staff to further explore the possibility of virtual meetings. And I wanted to surface that for the benefit of the public. There's been some consideration of, we've heard from our applicants that you can see the work ahead of us, that we're going to have a number, we're going to have very busy months in December, January, February, and March. And in talking with our applicants and understanding just how big and vast Virginia is. You know, I think sometimes it's not well known. A fun fact we always like to say is when you go to the west of Virginia, you've hit all the way to Detroit. We have a very large state. And so one of the things that we're going to be exploring with staff is the possibility of having virtual meetings to help support our applicants, as well as to ensure certainly public transparency and engagement, but to ensure that there's ease as we go into these winter months and we are on the time frame that we are. We want to make sure that there are not delays such as weather that might impede the consideration of an applicant. There are some considerations that the committee would have to take under advisement, such, for example, there are only so many virtual meetings that could be held per year or a certain percentage. They have to be posted and noticed just like all other meetings. That would have to be a planned endeavor. But this is something that we're going to work with staff and each of the committee members to explore. And if appropriate, we would take public comment on in December to see if the public has a strong feeling one way or the other. We certainly want to take that into consideration but we do want to explore this proactively in advance of the Virginia version of the winter season. I am cognizant of having just driven out to Mountain Gateway, that coming down off the mountain in January with ice can be a little tricky. Yeah, or even coming out of Charlottesville. And so we'll want to make sure that we can conduct our business and do so expeditiously. So I just want to kind of put that out there for the benefit of the public. We will have further discussion about it in December, and we will take public comment on it in December, but that is just something that we're working on. Yeah. Any comments from the committee members on that at this time? And I don't necessarily need some because I know I'm just putting you on the spot here, but I just wanted to surface this item.
I think it's a good idea, and just appreciate you and the staff's incredible time commitment that goes into this. Each of these applications are a lot of work on the institutional side of things, and so just appreciate the thoughtfulness of trying to figure out how we can continue to do the work that we need to do and come up with the best outcomes. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just second that. Madam Chair, I think obviously the work that the team puts in the department is great. The work that members put in, particularly folks like yourself, Ms. Moran, Mr. Bailey. And so to the extent we can be as inclusive as possible, your point on geography is extremely important. It is a very big Commonwealth. So be as inclusive as possible, as efficient as possible. I'm up for anything that we can do to add that flexibility. And I think with the technology and again with the great work that the team here does, the work that Andy's leading, we can do that in a way that it is high quality and effective, but maybe able to be both more efficient and more inclusive.
All right, hearing no further discussion at this time, is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Mr. Chapman or Dr. Armstrong? No, okay, thank you, Mr. Chapman. All right, hearing no further business before the committee, we stand adjourned. Thank you again for your deliberation.
Thank you.